Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Lisa Neff-Wheeler, realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty, and I'm here today with Frank Previte. Good morning.
Good morning.
Frank is the owner of the Spine and Orthopaedic Physical Therapy Center located in Hillsborough, New Jersey. I've been looking forward to this interview today to learn more about you and your practice. And how have you been?
Good, doing well. I'm excited too to talk with you.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So first, what led you to become a physical therapist?
Well, as a young guy, my dad always worked out in the basement when I was a kid. So I had that example of exercise. Even though he had a physical job, he took responsibility. I mean, there were a couple mornings where I woke up and I saw him standing on his head or doing some kind of stretching. So even though he never said to me that was important, it was impressed upon me that as an adult, taking responsibility for your health is gonna be valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first thing. And then when I went to college, I was studying biology and pre-medicine. And I was a young man and had this idea that in the future, do you want to be helping people with respect to pharmacy and medication, which is an unusual thought.
Right.
And I didn't have to really think about it too long, but the answer was no. I knew I didn't want to do that.
That makes sense.
And so then I stayed on with, exercise science at Rutgers, and then went on to my master's at Hahnemann University to become a physical therapist. And I'm 30 plus years later, still excited about the profession.
Awesome. I went to MBA school at Temple and their health admin program, so I know that market, and it's a good market to do healthcare in. So talk a little bit about people during their careers have evolutions. And when I looked at your information on the website, it said you're focusing more heavily on, I have to read it, mechanical diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of musculoskeletal disorders. So talk about how you started and then how you got to where you are now.
Well, I was an exercise consultant for Ethicon Corporation as an undergraduate, and I met two physical therapists there. There was a married couple, Wayne and Jean Rath, who became my mentors. So that really was invaluable to see therapists that really applied the discipline. They worked with their hands, which is the most important tool that we have. And they were part of the McKenzie process. They were educators in the McKenzie system. You see here, like, treat your own back, treat your own neck. This was came out of New Zealand. And so there was a very educational process. We didn't use a lot of modalities. It wasn't putting hot packs and ultrasound on people. It was really using our hands and anatomy. So I had mentorship that really sent me down that path that I still use to this day.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I would say lucky. It just worked out. And so they hired me 6 months out of school, and I began the process of learning how to really apply the discipline that I had been educated in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm happy about that.
It's good when you have mentors that point you in a way that you find enjoyable and fulfilling.
That makes a major difference in, I think, everybody's career.
So why have you chosen to augment your practice with your consulting work?
Well, Wayne and Jean also had, when I first was hired by them, they were consultants to Ethicon. That's where I met them, Ciba Geigy. And so I began doing the work there as well. And we would go and we were treating musculoskeletal problems at a very early time as far as their process, or it was early intervention.
Right.
We wanted to catch somebody's carpal tunnel when it wasn't full blown in need of surgery, but you were getting warning signs. Same for the neck, same for the back. Anywhere in the body, oftentimes we'll get those warning signs. If we could treat the person then, it's going to be a much faster process. They're going to get a better result. And then that really fit in with educating them how to prevent the problem from happening again. So that was just so exciting. And throughout my career, I have consulted to Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Pfizer, Warner Lambert before Pfizer obtained them, Ciba Geigy. So a lot of the pharmaceutical companies were interested in helping their associates we would go right to the site and provide the physical therapy right on the site.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And so that model where we don't travel with all this fancy computerized equipment, but we use our hands, we use education, we use models of anatomy and show people what they're actually going to be working on. So it was, it's efficient. So that still to this day, I'm a consultant to Novartis Corporation in ergonomics to help prevent musculoskeletal problems.
That, and so much of that, I mean, there's probably tons of it that exists in those type of settings because you're like this at a computer all day.
Fortunately, it's only going to get worse with the, technology making the devices smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
The posture for the youth, they're not going to escape these problems. They think so at first, but then it catches
Yes, I
up.
have a son that's like that. Oh, I'll be fine, Mom.
All slumped over playing video games.
So dry needling has recently become an approved service for physical therapists. So why don't you educate the audience on what dry needling is and why that was important?
Okay, so as I mentioned, using our hands is the best tool that we have. And basically, the dry needle, which is an acupuncture needle, now there's companies that make them just for physical therapy, but it's the same, it's not a hollow needle, it's very, very thin. It's sterile, it's used and disposed of, but it's an extension of our fingers. So when you think of anatomy, we have the surface muscles, but you have muscles under that, sometimes 3 levels deep. So you cannot treat those muscles unless you have a tool to get in there. And I actually sustained a pretty significant musculoskeletal injury and was treated with dry needle after 8 years of chronic pain.
Oh, wow.
And it helped me significantly. So it was, for me, a great thing, a great process that helped me, and then I had to learn it so I could help patients. So it's not the end all, it's just a great tool in our kit. It doesn't replace exercise, doesn't replace our hands, but sometimes we need it. And so about 50% of my patients come for trigger point dry needling now. There are some muscles that are not accessible unless you have a needle. TMJ, for instance, there's some deep muscles, muscles in your back. You could never reach them with your hands, no matter how gifted that massage therapist or physical therapist is. You need a tool. And so bringing that to our practice has really made a big difference, and we're helping a lot of people that have had recalcitrant problems, things that didn't go away, chronic problems, or even catching problems early. We're seeing some really great results.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah. So you said when we talked, you said you were in Bridgewater previously, and you chose, I'll say several years ago to move to Hillsborough. Why Hillsborough?
Well, I live in Hillsborough.
So do I.
And I love Hillsborough. I love the history here. And it always, when I was working, it was kind of Raritan. I was off on 202 near Wegmans. And I always wondered why I didn't get that many people from Hillsborough. It was in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I always stayed busy anyway. But it was just sort of like, because I guess the business address was Raritan. People didn't come, even though it really was not far.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked out. It was more in a sense of initially that the landlord the lease was changing, and Carrie found this place in the middle of Hillsborough, and I was like, I'm not sure about that. There's a lot of PT here already, but it's been wonderful. This is 4 years now. So I've kept my same, because I've been doing this over 30 years.
Right.
So
right.
the Branchburg and the Bridgewater patients that came before still come. Now I see a lot more Hillsborough, Montgomery. It's really more central. And personally, we really are connected. We love Hillsborough. We have a couple of dogs. We hike all over. And so the Sourlands.
We hike there too.
So I'm meeting a lot of people like that live where I, recreate. That's exciting. So Hillsborough has just been an awesome place to kind of spend this time and to keep working here and helping folks.
It's wonderful. So I always ask business owners, what would your clients say they love the most about your practice?
I knew that question was coming.
Yes, you did.
So I asked a couple patients. One, this is a professor from Princeton, young professor, and she said, trust. We trust that you can help us.
That's awesome.
Which was pretty neat.
Yeah.
I think the experience level comes with that, but also, how we interview and get to know a person. The model here is that you're not going to see a different therapist every other visit. What is Johnny doing with you? What did Sue do with you? It's consistency. So, and confidence that they're going to get one-on-one care, and they're also going to get some problem-solving skills backed by the experience that I have. So that was good, and I'm focused on the patient. I don't have 10 patients going at one time. It's an interview with the patient. How are we doing? Are we making any progress? We don't want to keep barking up the same tree if we're not making progress.
Right.
We want to change things. So there's a reassessment every visit.
That's different.
That's different.
That's very different.
The model that's out there typically is the physical therapist will do the evaluation, and every 2 or 3 weeks, oftentimes the physical therapy assistant is seeing this is there all because of economics.
Right.
And then the reassessment occurs. But every visit, are we making progress? Do we need to make a change? So all that depth of learning has come with me over the years from interviewing thousands of people, and then I just pass that on to patients and educate them, and we do our best to solve the problem and get some good results.
It's wonderful. So what drives and motivates you? What's most important to you, and what gets you out of that every day?
Like I mentioned, problem solving, and it's anatomy. I love human anatomy, and I keep learning that. And I keep, part of that is passing it on to the patients. We're not going to test you, but if you have a shoulder problem, you should start to learn about why, how it works.
Right.
So it's exciting to do that and help patients understand their bodies. And so the physical therapy profession, or medicine in general, no one has claimed the muscles as their area of expertise.
That's true.
You have your cardiologist for the heart,
Yeah.
you have your brain specialist, you have your
Orthopods.
urologist.
Yeah.
So who's treating the muscles? As a matter of fact, orthopedics guys are great with the joints. I watched the surgeon say, "What's that muscle?" "Oh, that's the piriformis." "You don't need that." Now, I think they've changed. That's when that was over 30 years ago, I would hope. He cut it when he was doing hip surgery on a woman.
Yeah.
I was a student.
Yeah, because they don't do that now. They kind of move it.
Right.
My husband had hip.
So we're going to spare all those muscles that are important. All of them have a function. But when we're helping people non-surgically, so we're the muscle experts. And actually, Dr. Janet Travell and Gary Simons, they're the ones that coined the term trigger point. Janet Travell was the White House physician to John F. Kennedy. And she was a trained cardiologist, but she was known as the muscle queen.
Oh, wow.
So the muscles are so important, and they can have those trigger points. And as I mentioned about the needle being an extension of the hand, so we're looking for those trigger points in the muscles. And in the human body, there's no exact count, but it's over 650, 700 muscles, because we have involuntary muscles, voluntary muscles, but it's quite a large number of muscles and how they interact and work with one another. So that's why it's an ongoing process of trying to help people. And everybody's a little bit different anatomically, and these trigger points become chronic, and they perpetuate pain. And NIH is doing a lot of great research to show how dry needling can help reduce these pains that have been persistent, and it helps the muscle function better too. So it's the muscle system that keeps me going, because it's so vast.
It's really vast.
and never boring in the sense that I'll work on a shoulder, a hip, a foot. Nothing wrong with myopathy.
Right.
We need people to be myopic.
Right.
If I'm going to have somebody work on my knee, let them just think about my knee. But there is a person attached to that.
Yes.
So when we're treating conservatively, we want to treat the whole person. So that's what's exciting. And then we're treating every joint in the body, every muscle in the body. So it's pretty exhaustive and exciting. And So it keeps me going. One thing that I've used, it's a little bit on my website, but in the last 10 years, most of my home programs are based in yoga. Because as I saw in physical therapy, when we want to stretch the posterior capsule of the shoulder, then I would find in the yoga routine, oh, they've been doing this for thousands of years. And they add balance on top of that.
Right.
Mackenzie, he's famous for extension of the spine, the bending backwards. Prior to him, everybody bent forwards only.
Right.
And doctors would order Williams flexion, or they would order Mackenzie extension. When really, when you understand anatomically, both are necessary.
Right. Because if you go this way, your muscles back here are never going to bend that way.
Exactly. So, but so the yoga is very balanced. And so I'm using the ancient exercise of yoga to help patients in their home exercises. And we're using self-practice. So yoga, when I tell people, we're going to use yoga, it's definitely not, there's nothing wrong with going to a class, finding that instructor, going somewhere, but self-practice. I can teach you an exercise and then you are doing yoga and you do it in your home. I think back in the day, even back in India, you learned a technique, you went to your patio in your backyard and you tried to stand on your head or do a stretch.
Right.
It wasn't monetized.
Healthcare is very monetized.
There's nothing wrong again with those classes, but if you have your self-treatment, then you can augment with the class. It's pretty economical that way too.
Yeah.
And safer. I did begin, teaching exercise classes where you would have 5, 10, 20 people. Everybody's different. The young secretaries would come up to me and say, "Oh, let's get a good workout." And the guy in the back, in the end, I kind of felt my knee or my back. That made me a little concerned about the responsibility I had.
Yeah.
So one-on-one, it's, we present a little bit each day. We're each different as well. So how do you feel? And then I would use a class situation for someone that motivates them as an augment to their home program, what they do in self-practice. So that's pretty much the model that I use with every case.
It's wonderful.
It works.
Yeah. So you're a busy man. New York Marathon, hiking, renovating a house, dogs. It's busy practice. So I find it interesting because when I started my own business, that whole balance of you have a family life, you need your own, clear your head type space, and you also need your business time. And if you're a self-business owner, you could work at it all day.
Yeah.
24/7, so how do you do the balance? Because I think I like having people share with others because a lot of people have difficult times these days figuring out balance.
I think that's a great question. I learned early on, especially in healthcare, somebody gave me the analogy that if I was a well and people kept dipping and getting water out of that well, eventually it will go dry. I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound good. So what do we need? We need the spring. We need a water source that keeps filling the well. So for me, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, but I like to play golf.
I saw that too.
I don't play a lot, but it's challenging. So
It is.
That's something I do for myself. The pets that I have and my partner, Carrie, we that really is refreshing. Those, we have 2 dogs. They're both very demanding for walks. So
we have a rescue dog who's a sitting. He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback. It's like,
yeah, but that is great because that gets us into the Sourlands. It gets us hiking. It gets us really moving. So those things are really therapeutic. And then, I love being here with the patients, and so that does take a lot of time. So I'm not really burned out. But we picked a location that is very light, natural light, and the music is still going. This is pretty much what I play. It's a relaxing atmosphere, so I'm not burned out. And yet I have to do some of those personal things. So it's a good combination. I'm very excited. The discipline of physical therapy has been a great opportunity for me to help people, to use my knowledge base and to keep growing. Anatomy, I'm still learning anatomy. It's just, people are a little unique and
Yeah.
there's anomalies. We have to learn it very myopically. But with the anatomy, the physical anatomy, comes the person's belief system, how they feel about health, how they fear, what fears they have. So that all comes into play. That's so there's never a dull day or a dull moment.
That's wonderful. Well, it's been great spending time with you. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you taking time out of your day and your weekend to have a conversation with me. And to our audience, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Once again, I'm Lisa Neff-Wheeler, Realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty. If you have a business and would like to be featured, please don't hesitate to contact me at 732-267-1204. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.